Hey guys, this is Scot Bowing from Good Company with Bowling. It was an honor to be on Ben's podcast, Getn Crazy with Crazy Wheels. We talk about Korn. We talk about, who do we talk about? Slipknot. Does all these bands that I got to interview back in the day, and Ben does a great job asking me all these questions, and he did a great job, and I hope you guys like the episode.
Okay, we're recording. What's up, Crazy Wells family? Today I'm with a cool guy named Scot Bowing. You may have saw him on getting not the Good Company podcast with Scot Bowling. He's interviewed from everybody from Morgan Rose to members of Deftones to so many more. And I've been waiting to do this interview for a while. And one thing I want to ask you, what was it like interviewing Fram? I know I just saw that interview today. I can't even pronounce his name, but I just saw the interview today and it was so cool because he has done so much with like capturing pictures of like rock stars and Slipknot and stuff. So it just took me back to a time and place where he was at the masquerade and the pit and how he snuck in there and got those pictures. So how did it feel interviewing him and what did you take away from it?
Hey Ben, man, that's cool, man. I've interviewed friend twice actually, and he's got so many stories. I'm like, kind of wish he was my neighbor so we just hang out and drink beer and just swap stories or whatever. But yeah, when I first heard about him, he interviewed or he did a documentary for Seven Dust on the Seasons album, and he's also done Stan. I'm trying to remember your question now, but he's been on my radar for so long, and just to have him on the show meant so much to me. And I really need to do a long form interview with him, or he needs to do an audio book or something
Yeah,
because we couldn't fit everything he's done into when I interviewed him, and that's why I had him twice actually.
I wanted to know more about him taking pictures. It wasn't the documentary, it was the pictures and how he got in there. So
Oh
what
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. So what has been your greatest interview and what's been the biggest thing you've learned from the biggest person that you interviewed and what did you take away from that?
So every time I think about my favorite two interviews, there's always like two of them, right? So it's and I can't figure out which one I want, like which one's the best experience. And the first one is Corey Taylor from Slipknot at his house in Vegas, right? I mean, how can you top that? And then the second one is the only good company interview which I'm not in, and that's Brian Welch from Korn, Morgan Rose from Seven Us, and Rich Ward from Fozzy, Stuck Mojo, Guardians of the Jukebox. And they were like, "You're not going to be in it." Like right before we started, they're like, "Okay, Scott not going to be in." I'm like, "I'm not going to ruin this experience." Like we
That,
only need you guys on camera. So I had all three of those guys on an episode of 80s Pick Three. So it was like, okay, which one are my favorite episodes? Is it 80s Pick Three with Brian Welch and all these people like I grew up listening to, or is it Corey Taylor at his house in Vegas? I think Corey Taylor must win because I was at his house and he's never done an interview at his house before. So,
how long did you stay there and what was that experience like?
oh man, so I was so nervous. The interview was early, and I'll try to make a long story short. The interview was like I can't remember. It was like maybe 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And me and Isaac, my sound guy, were staying at a hotel right down the street. And Nathan Mowry, that films my show, who got me the interview, basically, he was staying with Corey Taylor at their house. So we went there in the morning in a little rent a car, and I got Corey Taylor a plaque, two of them. I got him a Slipknot plaque for the album that was out at the time. I'm trying to remember the name of the album, and I got a solo album plaque. And so we got there early, and so when I'm getting ready to put the plaques on the side, he has no idea I'm getting these platinum album awards, and I look at him, and one of the records is dropped. So in the picture frame that I'm going to give Corey Taylor before the interview, the actual it's damaged. You know what I mean? The record's
Yeah,
fallen. So I'm like, oh no. So I go to his front of his house in his driveway, and I'm taking the frame apart, fixing it, this is like 10 minutes before the interview is going to start. And I put it all back together, and I look at it, and there was a piece of leaf. Like he had leaves, and there was a leaf in the frame. I was like, no. So I had to redo the whole thing, take it all apart, take the freaking leaf off, and get all this thing. And then like, I'm sweating. I'm like, okay, all right, so now we're going to start. Okay. So it was a lot of pressure. And then after the interview, I felt this weird, like, if I could redo everything again, I would be like, hang out longer and get to know him more. But after the interview, I was so relieved that it went well. I just wanted to get out of there for some reason. It's so weird. It's hard to explain. I was like, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I just want to get out. And looking back now, I wish that I would have just hung out longer and got to know him better. And he gave me a tour of his house and everything. It was so cool.
That's cool. Is he a pretty cool guy, or is he like standoffish, or what's his personality like?
Oh, he like I was thinking he'd be more like intense, it's freaking Corey Taylor, but he was so laid back. Just very, very, very calm and just chill. Like when I first got to his house, he was playing the piano, like by himself, and then it's like, all right, man, it's kind of cool, chill vibe. And his wife was there, Alicia Taylor, she was there, and some of I'm trying to think of who else was there. But he was very chill. And then what was cool though is he was showing me YouTube videos constantly after the interview of reporters. He was the videos he was showing me were like all these it was like NFL people that were like news reporters that were giving the news, but then getting hit by the ball.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, I love those. I love those things.
Yeah. So he would show me these, like it'd be this lady just talking, like, giving updates, and then a freaking football would hit her right, and bam. And he was like, that's so funny, So he was showing me all those videos after the interview. And plus the tour of his house was amazing. Like he was showing me the plaques on his walls and anyway, he had a theater room. It was really cool.
Yeah. So anybody that's never watched your podcast and never seen the show, what do you hope to accomplish, and what is your mission of the show?
It's crazy. When I first started the show, it was 8 years ago, and I didn't think anything of it when I first started. I was just like, hey, I was kind of naive. I was like, this would be easy, just talk to people about music. And what a world that's opened up with friends and just connections and relationships I built over the years. I never thought that starting it, and it's just wild. I just thought I just think I was so young and kind of dumb, just like, hey, I can ask people about questions and about music, whatever. And the goals, I've got a lot of goals. I got goals coming up. It's just keep it going. And I love doing it so much that it's never been, I don't know about you, but like, it's never been like a burden. It's never like, got to do another interview. Yeah. You get that drive. So
I look forward to it. And I don't know about you, but I try to expand on what I'm doing. I want to go way past the podcast and do documentaries and all kind of stuff.
Right on. Yeah. It's just about networking, right? So you just got to meet the right people to get it going.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. I was going to ask you, what has been the hardest guest to get a hold of, and how did you do it?
I have to think about that one. So the hardest guest to get and the hardest one to get a hold of. I may have to get back to you on that. I can tell you. I have to get back to you on that. The hardest one to get. Well, are you talking about the hardest one to get that I did eventually get?
Yeah, go with that. Like in contact with or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So Brian Welch from Korn was probably one like that. So I interviewed Mikey from Islander, the band Islander.
Yeah, which I him as well. Thanks.
Yeah, you interviewed him. That was a great interview.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I told you the story, but I'll just say it again on your podcast. But Mikey asked me the same. He's like, "What's your bucket list guest?" And I was like, "I'd love to get any of the Korn guys." And Mikey's like, I'll hook you up with Mike. I remember with Brian Welch. And I was like, okay. I didn't even take him serious. And after a while, I mean, like it was a bunch of back and forth, and I finally got him on. But
awesome.
With the guests I get though, like if they get too difficult to get on, then I just move on. I have had guests that that I used to fly out. I'd pay for their flight to come here,
Yeah.
and the issue is they wouldn't want to go home immediately. They wouldn't fly in, fly out dates. And
Oh,
I learned quickly. I was like, that doesn't work, because I mean, as soon as they get here, there's like, okay, let's do the interview and let's go. And the format of my show is I do a lot of online interviews and a lot of in-person interviews, and that's just to, hang out and get to know everyone and have a meal and chill. And when you got to fly in and fly out, it's too much of a rush.
yeah, I've noticed that you've increased your online interviews, which is great because people like me who don't have good transportation, sometimes who can't go to shows and get interviews, this has really opened a lot of doors for me to do things on, StreamYard and things like that. So, what do you think your most impactful guest has been? Like the one that's left you with the most impact and you learned from to hone your craft?
Oh, yeah, man, these are great questions. Most impact I've had. Um, I'm thinking Rich Ward from Fozzy and Suck Mojo band. Suck Mojo, man, I love them. They were huge in the '90s. I mean, they're originators. I mean, some argue they're before Rage Against the Machine, rap
That
rock. Before and Rich Ward is like he's a guitar player from Fozzy and Suck Mojo and Guardians, but I recently did an interview with them again at a vinyl store.
Yeah, the record store. I saw that. I love it, and I love the way that you're doing the community thing with him. You want to talk a little bit about the community you guys are trying to create and
Yeah,
what you have to do with that?
yeah, we haven't done much with it yet, but it was an idea of like Rich Ward's like, you loved Suck Mojo back in the day because it was all your friends and fans. It was like a big community, and then I'm kind of using my own words here, but nowadays the community's kind of he wants to bring that back. Just have almost like a church vibe. Where you get a group of friends that love the band, and you guys do things. You go places, and
Yeah,
it's not in concerts or bowling, anything. You know what I mean? And just bring the community back. So we kind of talked a little bit about that, but we haven't done anything as of yet. But Rich Ward, man, like I was answering your question though, he's been such a mentor, man. He's just been very cool, and that just means a lot to me, though. If you told myself like when I was 15, like, hey, man, you're gonna be buddies with and mentors, and I don't know, he means a lot. He's really cool, and a lot of other people have too. But anyway,
yeah. I think we have a lot of those people when we start doing this that inspire us to keep doing it and inspire us to do more. I know you've done that with me because I watched your podcast for a long time, and it's cool because I actually met. Well, I knew of you, but I met you and got on your podcast through Paul.
Paul, I love
Through
Paul.
through a Seven Dust group that I'm in, and we just met. And I was like, "Hey, there's Paul," and he was talking to you, and you were on the way to the Seven Dust show. So, how does it feel to know that you made an impact on bands like Seven Dust in your local area, and how do you want to expand that?
How did I impact seven? What was the question?
How do
I'm
you,
sorry.
how do you feel that you've impacted bands like Seven Dust to help them continue what they're doing, and how do you want to expand on that using your podcast?
I mean, those guys freaking they're amazing. I don't know what I've done to help them, but man, golly, they were like the Seven S guys were early on, not when I first started doing interviews. And don't you love those guys? They're just so
Yeah.
like they're like the bad news bears. Like they're the guys that like I don't know, the underdogs that win. You know,
Yeah. Well, I've never really gotten to hang out with him in the capacity you have. I got to meet Morgan one time because my aunt grew up with him, and she went to his house way before he was in Seven Dust, so they do know each other. But I haven't got to hang out with them on the level that you have. But I hope to do that one day. I hope to interview Clint because I noticed that he has changed his life and got faith with God and things like that. So I really want to interview him about his faith and his music and how that plays a part in it.
Ben, we're gonna make this happen. Okay, you're gonna interview Clint. We're gonna put that in the atmosphere.
Awesome. Awesome.
We're gonna make this, dude. Can I tell you my favorite Seven Dust story? Is
Absolutely. You're on my
so,
podcast, but I want you to tell a story. This is your moment, bro.
dude. I want to write a book one day or an audio book, but Morgan, my family was out at Disney, so I had the house to myself, and I'm kind of laying the foundation here. But Morgan Rose spent the night at my house because we did the interview, and I was pressuring him. I'm like, dude, you could just stay here. I got a guest room. You don't have to worry about driving home. And he's like, okay. So we did the interview. We hung out. It was an amazing night. And anyway, I don't sleep in, right? Because I'm used to getting up early.
Yeah.
And so I get up, I don't know, 8, 9 in the morning. And, obviously Morgan's still asleep in the guest room, 10, 11, 12, 1. He's still asleep. And then I start worrying. I start thinking the worst thoughts. I'm like, what if he died at my house? Like, I've never slept that late, And man, he slept till like 1 or 2. And whenever he finally came out, I was just so glad that Morgan Rose was still alive. He just,
Yeah.
he,
Did you tell him you got worried about him?
I was worried, man. I was like, I've never slept in that late. I was like, well, this is so what? This is not like I have kids, man. He has kids too. But anyway, I just
Yeah,
thought I love that story of like him spending that. And if he's spending that at my house. Like I was like, that's a win. That's pretty cool.
that's awesome. I have to ask you. I remember the interview you did with Jeffrey the barber, or no,
Oh
Richie.
yeah, Richie the barber.
And I
Yeah.
want to talk about that, what that experience is like. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because I know it was crazy and it was wild by the things you guys talked about. And I know you said you don't want to go back and watch it. And I find myself not wanting to go back and watch a lot of my interviews because I don't like the way I talked or the way I was sitting or something. But how does it make you feel whenever you interview someone like that? It was so wild and crazy, and you see them change their life and come into faith and
Well,
stuff like that.
yeah. I had him on the show before he came to faith. Like he
Yeah, I
wasn't.
know. That's what I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
how does it feel to see that transition?
that's amazing. Yeah, he totally. Yeah, so Richie the barber is for people that don't know him, he's a barber. I mean, Richie the barber. He cuts hair for Steve-O, Jackass, and yeah, he came over to the house and cut my hair on camera.
It's very funny, by the way.
Yeah, dude, can I just say this? Like, he was cutting my hair, and like, if you're listen, if you're doing an interview, right, you got all your questions, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'm supposed to interview him as he's cutting my hair, but I ran out of questions. So
Oh wow.
but you know what I'm saying? But he's still cutting my hair. He's like, let me do the extra trim. So I'm like, by the end of the interview, I'm like, do you got any brothers? Do you got any sisters?
Wow.
What's your dad like? You know what I mean? Because I have nothing left because I'm not in control anymore. He's the
Yeah.
one still like. But anyway, so yeah, and when he was on the show, the reason I told you earlier is like I didn't want to watch that is, you live and you learn. When I did that interview, I was so dumb and hungover because we all hung out the night before. So during the interview, I look like this because I'm tired,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel bad. But anyway, he changed his whole life, became a Christian, which I am too.
Oh
But
yeah.
but he is big on his faith and yeah, it was. But when he was at my house, though, he was very calm and he didn't, I don't know, maybe even before he pronounced his whole faith and everything, he wasn't. Even when he's at my house, he wasn't really partying. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Cool.
but but he was really cool though.
Yeah. So, what is the legacy you want to leave behind from doing things like this? And what do you want your kids to know and show your kids? And what do you hope that they take away from you doing shows like this and interviewing bands? And how does your family feel about it? Not just your kids, but your family.
The wife puts up with it, but no, she's cool. But my daughter's funny because she does TikTok and has like apparently more followers on TikTok than TikTok's like a desert for me.
Yeah.
But the legacy thing, like I'm weird. Like I'm thinking like when I die, I'm kind of someone else said this too, but when I die, I want my legacy to live on. Like I want videos still be out there. I don't know. Do you ever think about that? Like
Yeah.
you got your videos out, so when you pass away, people can still watch your content. That's
Well,
weird to
this
think.
is this is why I do what I do is to build a podcast to show other people with disabilities they can live their hopes and dreams. So I hope to do documentaries. Like I want to go to
Yeah,
Aftershock Festival and actually video myself there getting on a plane because I never flew on a plane. So I want to actually video myself on the plane getting to Aftershock, interviewing bands, and meeting people and showing people with disabilities I can do this. So, is there anything you want to do like that? Like that's like extreme to where you can show people that maybe don't know how to interview bands or scared or just don't know what to do that maybe you want to do it. What do you want to show them and what do you hope for them to see, if anything?
God, man, God, there's so much to unpack what you just said. The fact that what you're doing, and I saw a video of you jumping out of a plane, which is amazing, dude. By the
Yeah.
way, I mean, were you scared at all when you did that? When you
Honestly, yes, I was.
skydiving? Yeah,
Yes, I was, but I felt like I was gonna die because they told me to watch how I breathe, and I'm like, I don't need that, whatever, and I didn't do that, so I felt like I was gonna suffocate. But this is not about me; it's about you. So, what do you hope to
no,
take?
no.
What do you hope to take away from all you're doing, and what you know? Yeah,
There's so much more that I've taken away from what happened from Good Company. It's just the fact, like I was telling you earlier, it's like the relationships and these. I met so many people, and it's amazing. Like, and that's like how we both believe in God. Like, I'm like, I feel like God is a part of what I'm doing, and what I take away is what I take away is I don't know what I take away, but I what I encourage people to do is because I remember when I first started Good Company, and I was like, I don't know about you, but like, were you nervous to tell people? Like, I was nervous to tell people my idea because I'm like, oh, they're gonna make fun of me, like, oh, you want to ask people questions? You want your own podcast now?
no,
And I had to,
I wasn't nervous what they would say. I was just nervous about interviewing and asking the right questions and not making them mad or thinking it was a dumb question.
right. No, yeah, 100%. And what I want to encourage other people to do is just try it, just do it like you are. You had this idea and do it. I did it, and I'm still doing it 8 years later, and it snowballed into this huge, like, bigger than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah, I felt like I could talk to you forever, but I see you have a lot of autographs and things on the wall. What is your number one thing that you love on the wall? I know you're big into skateboards and all that. So, what is your number one thing in your collection that you love and that you want everybody to see when they come in your house? And how did you acquire all that stuff? Is that just bands that come by the house, or do you buy it, or how does that happen?
Yeah, my number one favorite thing is Deftones in the early. Me and my buddy Carl Smith, who does all my photography for Good Company in the early 2000s. We used to, back when we were single, we had no families or anything. In the summertime, we spent one summer where we followed Deftones to different cities, and we had their guitar player Stephen Carpenter had a signature guitar at the time, I can't remember, the SC 200 green guitar, and I bought one. And so I went on the road, and the Atlanta show, I got everybody to sign the guitar except for Stephen Carpenter. It's Stephen Carpenter. It's his guitar, and he's not the only. He's the only one that didn't sign it. So we went to the next show, and then the next show, and then maybe North Carolina or something. And I met the roadie Juan, who I've had on the show now. And Juan goes, "You know what? Give me that guitar. We're gonna get this signed." And he, brought it up on the bus and got him to sign it. And so I've had that framed in a glass frame that doesn't open, but just the experiences, you know what I mean? So it's on the wall. I took a road trip with my friends, met all these people in the summer of 2003, maybe to 2003. So of course, like, the memories of that means a lot to me.
That's so awesome. So as we wrap this up, is there anything that you want the people to know? Any good interviews they need to watch out for? Anything that you want to leave them with? Anything you want to promote?
Of course, man. So, like you said, I have been doing a lot of online interviews, but I'm also doing in-person interviews. And the kind of goal now that going forward is, and the plans I have for the future is to get out there and do interviews on locations. So, like Rich Ward, I interviewed him at God, I cannot remember the vinyl store that we went to. It was in Atlanta. But anyway, I interviewed him on
Is it
location.
is it in Little 5 Points?
It wasn't at Little 5 Points. And you know what? I'll have to text you the, the name of the place. But anyway, just going on locations. I interviewed Striper on their tour bus. So going ahead, I'm going to interview. some bands at Blackstrap in Gainesville. Which Ben, you got to go to this, man. So Blackstrap in Gainesville is Kyle Sanders from the band Hell Yeah, and he
Yeah.
plays with Kerry King. His
Yes.
brothers in Macedon.
Yes.
They have a club in Gainesville, Georgia. So I'm planning on doing some interviews at the club.
Yes.
Plan on doing some death match interviews coming up. And that's, just doing on location. I think that's cool, man. Just showing up with the camera or two.
Let me know when that interview is, and I'll try to work some caregiver stuff out, and I'll definitely come out. Is there going to be music, or are you just going to interview?
Probably just interview, but man, I would love if Blackstrap is huge, man. It's like it's the scene right now in Gainesville, and it's just amazing to have, the bass player, man. Kyle Sanders is the man. Imagine just
Yeah.
having him in your hometown, just like opening this
He's
awesome rock club.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, it was good talking to you, and I appreciate you coming by the show and letting me know a little bit about your rock history and your knowledge and all that good stuff. And I'm going to keep watching the podcast, and I hope other people can watch this podcast as well and learn something from it, man. That's awesome.
You're the man, Ben. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, Ben. There. Hold on a second.